Alright, welcome back. This is Father Scott, Father Vince. We're going to talk to you a little bit more about vocational discernment, and we are still in the pre-discernment phase. We've laid that spiritual foundation. We've talked about daily meditation. We've talked about spiritual direction. We've talked about the importance of going to Mass frequently. Now we want to take a look. We're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to take a little bit more of a look at the human side, the human preparation that we need to be able to have those free hearts, to be able to say, God, whatever you want, that's what I want. So we're going to be getting rid of obstacles, and we're going to be replacing it with things that build us up and edify. In this video, we're going to hit on 3 areas: friendship, feeding our minds, and the third area is having that balanced schedule, so how we spend our time. And just focusing on that first one for now, friendship. I still remember when I started my vocational discernment, I was living in a fraternity house. And I'll tell you that my fraternity brothers and I, we were not helping each other or encouraging each other to grow in virtue. We had a whole other idea, it was parties and girls and whatever. And that was what was encouraged. Not everybody did it, but that was if you were in that environment, that's what you got rewarded for. And so, yeah, obviously for me, I'm torn up inside. I got this inner civil war, if you will. On the one hand, I've got my friends who are doing all this stuff. On the other hand, I know I'm supposed to be living out virtue. I know I'm supposed to be living out God's will for my life. I know I'm supposed to be doing things differently. And so the fundamental, and all of that, of course, changed for me. Junior year, I moved into the rectory, moved in with a bunch of priests. Of course, they're going to encourage me to pray. They're going to encourage me to live out virtue. They're going to encourage me to live out purity. And if I'm not praying, if I'm not living out virtue, they're going to call me out on it. So it was just a great shift for me to go from being encouraged to behave one way to now being encouraged to behave. It was like, oh, now I'm free. There's no more hindrances. There's no more block. And that's what we want you to have. So the key question when it comes to friendships is this person, or are these people, is this group of people helping me to grow in virtue or not? And if it's not, we got to say, okay, I need some distance here. And then I need to find some people who are going to help me to grow in virtue.
I had a very similar experience when I was in college and starting my own vocation. It was so huge for me, the transition from my old friends, my old way of life, to the new friends that I had at the Newman Center. To be able to continuously immerse myself in that environment with people who desired to pray, who desired to discern, who desired to live a virtuous Christian life was a huge encouragement and a help for me. So making that transition was really important. Another one of the images that Father Scott and I use a lot is the image of a fishbowl. If you have a fish in a fishbowl and the fish gets sick, what do? Do you take the fish out and treat the fish and then put it back in the fishbowl, or do you change the water? Because if the water is dirty, even if you take the fish out, treat him and put it back, he's just going to get sick again. Because we are as healthy as the environment in which we immerse ourselves in. This is really important for vocational discernment. The first aspect is friendship. The second aspect is maybe more you could call the intellectual side. What do I feed my mind with? How do I spend my free time? And there's kind of 2 aspects to this. There's on the one hand, the things that we need to eliminate. Especially today, there's so much noise. We want to create an environment of silence. We want to create an environment of calm and of peace. It's like a lake. If a lake is calm, then you're able to see your reflection in it. Instead of the lake is turbulent, if there's waves, you can't see anything. Same is true with our hearts. If there's no calm, if there's no peace, if there's no quiet, then we'll never be able to see within our own hearts and what our own hearts are trying to tell us. Now, so what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean that we want to just sit in our room and be silent for no reason, like a dunce. That's not the goal. But the goal is to eliminate the noise so we can fill our minds with good things. So some of the things that we want to work on eliminating, or at least controlling, the first 2, the most important, the biggest distractions that we have, I think, are internet and TV. Those 2 are huge. How much time do I spend on the internet? How much time do I spend watching TV? What am I watching? What am I doing on the internet? Some things might even be good, but if I'm spending too much time doing those things, then I could be wasting time, or I'm doing something that's not necessarily building me up. A good example would be Facebook. If I'm checking Facebook, or if I'm on Facebook for hours on end every single day, well, Facebook's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's a good way to remain in contact with people. I'm on Facebook myself, so is Father Scott. But if I'm spending hours on it every day, then ultimately I'm wasting time. Same is true with TV. There are good things on TV, things that are not necessarily evil in and of themselves. But if I spend all my time watching TV, then I'm not building myself up. I'm not giving myself the time, the opportunity to really build a heart of virtue and to inspire myself. So eliminating those things, those distractions, that could include also things like magazines, newspapers, cell phones are really important.
Texting.
Spending all my time texting, things like that. Trying to eliminate those things and just looking at my day and saying, how much time do I give to these things that are good, but they can become distractions? So eliminating the noise, and on the other hand, building myself up with good things. So giving myself time for, first of all, spiritual reading. First of all, because spiritual reading is edifying, it inspires me to love God more, to imitate the lives of the saints, and it also forms my mind. It forms the way that I see the world. So if I spend all of my time watching TV, pick any TV show, let's say pick Jersey Shore. I've spent all my time watching Jersey Shore. Well, eventually I'm going to learn to see the world the way that those actors see the world. The same is true with spiritual reading. The more that I give myself over to spiritual reading and read good, holy things, the more that I'll have a desire to imitate the lives of the saints and to put those things into practice. So really feeding my mind with spiritual reading, good resources, there are great DVDs, other things like that, opportunities to really edify myself. So we really want to feed our mind with good things, build up that vision, Christian vision of the world reality, and give myself also time for other things like friendship and all the other things that I need to have a balanced spiritual life.
Yeah, and going off of that, building up just one more idea, Father Vince and I, for instance, we both have iPods, but what do we have on our iPods? Things that are going to lift us up. He's a big fan of Tim Gray, Peter Kraft. I've got my own guys that I go to that, Fulton Sheen is one great example, that they're feeding our minds with stuff that's going to help us to grow and to become saints and become the men God made us to be. So even if you don't like to read, but you got your iPod in all the time, or you tapes or CDs or what, use that time to really feed your mind with good things. And then the third thing we want to hit on in this tape is having that balanced schedule. It'd probably be a good idea for just about everybody listening to this, if you haven't done it in a while, to take some time, sit down, look at your schedule. How are you spending your day? How are you spending your week? What are you doing? Do you have time for everything you need to have time for? Are you taking care of your body, your mind, your heart? Are you taking care of your important relationships, your family, your friends? Are you taking care of your schoolwork or your job? Is there time for everything that really needs to be in there? And, a lot of times there's kind of 4 different extremes. As people talk about 4 different personality types, 4 different extremes. There's the guy, like me, for instance, the workaholic, the achiever, got to get everything done, and totally task-oriented and working on stuff and getting it. And okay, it's good that I have that and I can use that. At the same time, it's so important for me to have my brothers come along and say, hey, what about us? We need some time with you too. Or just to even realize, hey, I need a break here. I need to breathe. I need to go take a walk. To have that balance in my schedule, in my day, in my life. I need to go pray. Those things are important. On the flip side, there's other people very different from me who they don't get much done. They would rather just kind of sit around or whatever, maybe watch YouTube or something. And they need that extra push to be like, okay, I got some work, I got some homework to get done, I got a test to study for, I need that little extra push, I need to schedule some study time, I need to go to a place where if I go there, I can't do anything else but study, so I'm going to study. We need that to put that into our schedule so that it's there, so we're living that balance. That's kind of the task side. There's also the people side. Some people, they've got tons of friends, there's 1,000 Facebook friends or whatever, and they're talking all the time, and they're texting and cell phone and going to all the parties and having all the fun, and it's great, but you're not, obviously there, you're not able to have that intimacy that you want, and again, it tends to be a lot of noise, and we end up missing those key important relationships, like our relationship with God, like our relationship with our closest family, our closest friends, because we're spread so thin. So it's just time to, okay, you know what? During this discernment time, I really need to, I don't want to say close up, but I really need to focus on the essentials. Focus on what's important. Kind of let some of this other stuff fade into the background. Some of these other people fade into the background just a little bit. Not, you don't have to disappear completely, but just so I'm not all over this all the time. And then on the flip side of that, some people, they tend to just be lonely or you know, kind of set themselves apart. And really an encouragement here, living that balance means to enter into some relationships, even if it's just, you know, immediate family, closest friends, but to have that core group of people close to you, that you're feeding those relationships, you're nourishing those relationships, you're receiving love, you're giving love. That's so important at this phase, to have that balance, so that by already living out God's will for our lives, that's what's going to let Him speak to that and say, like, look, you know, they've got the great friendships, they're feeding their mind with all this good stuff, they're taking care of their schedule, they're living a balanced life. All of that encourages God to say, okay, so if you've taken on all this and you've handled this, then now you're ready. I'm going to give you a little bit more. I'm going to give you a little bit more. That constant push. So next time, we're going to really focus on talking about romantic relationships and their role in the pre-discernment phase. So I know this was a lot we went over, but to really hammer home, you know, the importance of virtue-based friendships, the importance of feeding our mind with good things, the importance of living that balanced schedule so that we're free to know God's will for our lives and to say yes.
Amen. 11:30.